Now, to get some reaction, we've got the Communication Workers Union on this. We're joined by Nathan Bowers. A very good evening to you. Thank you for your time. Nathan, with plans to pay workers given the green light, what is your reaction as a union?
Let us first say that thank you very much for having us on your show. Firstly, the Communication Workers Union welcomes this contribution that will enable workers to get paid for at least another 6 months. However, we want to put on record for the nation that the ANC government were the ones that retrenched over 5,000 workers. They retrenched over 5,000 workers, but it was the Communication Workers Union in the first sitting of the Section 189 in the CCMA that said that we must get TERS. And then we applied for TERS and it was refused to the workers, and 5,000 workers were subsequently retrenched. And now, this time around, suddenly TERS is available to us. And it is clear that it's not for 6 months. What is going to happen after 6 months? The ANC government's minister, my comrade, he put up an undertaking to the High Court when SAPO was about to be fully liquidated. And he signed an agreement to say he will issue 3.8 billion rand to sustain the post office and to modernize the post office. Now suddenly we find everybody grandstanding in the country, especially the ANC who retrenched us. They are grandstanding, and this minister in the GNU, Ifundobeli, was the one who assured the nation that the People's Post Office will receive that cash injection of 3 billion. Why then now they are coming to tell us that for the next 6 months our workers' salaries will be safe, the People's Post Office will be safe, but now we are not hearing about that 3.8 billion. So that what we are saying as the Communication Workers Union, government must come to the party. The COSATU and the CW has continuously asked the minister to come to the party to discuss how we implement the Post Office Amendment Act the President Ramaphosa signed into law in December last year. So, although this is something we welcome, but we are calling government to the table to discuss the implementation of the Post Office Amendment Act as signed, and that they give us an understanding that we negotiate as CTU with this government. So what we are in actual fact saying, this is a short-term plan, because very soon, 6 months, what is going to happen? The BRPs are on their way out. The government gave us 1.8 billion over 3 years for the universal service offices. However, it's 500 odd million a year. Now the BRP is also on the way out. We are not an SAA. We have to get that cash injection as promised by Minister Ngubele and as now inherited by this government of national unity. And this minister in the government of national unity, that DA minister, is anti-worker. In fact, all those SOEs in his department are crucifying the CW. And in this case, the CW is saying, we with our Federation COSATU is going to sit down next week to ensure that we bring the government to the table. 6 months from now, we must have that 3.8 billion. 6 months from now, we must be able to sit down with government at the CW and discuss with COSATU the implementation of the Post Office Amendment Act.
Okay, so as you make this call for the cash injection, where do you think government is currently missing the mark with what you're saying is merely a short-term plan?
Look, the 3.8 billion has been agreed upon in a court of law. So they will be calling of the government. that money is not a bailout. If that money was not forthcoming, then the South African Post Office would have been in liquidation and all the jobs would have been lost. So in that case, we are saying the government must come. Now this TERS money, the TERS money is not to say forthcoming immediately. They must prove as the post office or as the BRPs that they have a viable business plan. Now, this is strange because the business rescue plan is the plan. That is what they said to us when we applied the first time, when the workers were slaughtered by the South African government. That is what they asked us. This time around also, they mustn't hoodwink the public. Then it's conditions. Now, what plan do you still want? We asked them that in the retrenchment process also.
Yes.
What plan do you want? There is a business rescue plan. And let us say, the Communication Workers Union were not part of the creditors meeting that agreed on the plan because the plan already had retrenchments there. So when we brought TERS, it was not approved, but this time it is approved. But the TERS is a short-term solution to a judicial problem that the government does not want to bow down to a high court decision that based on the minister's undertaking, the South African Post Office was not liquidated. The People's Post Office was not liquidated. So what are we going to do as this? We are going to mobilize. We're going to go to
as you emphasize that point, government is saying that they're hopeful that the decision to cover wages through TERS will allow the post office to undertake its turnaround plans. I mean, with government saying that, some analysts have pointed out that the difficulty of a possible turnaround, citing the state entity's outdated mandate, arguing that it never kept up with the times because the way people communicate and exchange information has evolved much faster than the SAPO could keep up with.
Precisely. And therefore, the Post Office Amendment Act was put into law last year, December. A little too late. It's about 10 years late, but it's there. So it is there. It points out what we must do to sustain the Post Office, what we must do to modernize the Post Office, what we must do to turn the Post Office around. There is a plan. CW has also contributed to the plan. The plan is the Post Office Amendment Act. And therefore, we call on government to meet with Communication Workers Union to discuss the implementation of the Post Office Amendment Act. Because we make brilliant policies in this country. Brilliant policies. But when it comes to implementation, we are left lagging. Now, this is the case of post office workers. And post office workers has given us the mandate to ensure that we do everything in our power to ensure the Post Office Amendment Act is implemented and fast-tracked. And the workers of South African Post Office has given us the mandate to bring this minister who is not taking workers serious in all these companies, SABC, CETA, wherever you go in this minister department, there are problems. And now we are sitting with a situation where within 6 months, what are we going to do? We're going to reach day zero again. So we are saying in the next 6 months, there must be an engagement between CW, our Federation COSATU, and this GNU government to ensure that we preserve the South African Post Office, the People's Post Office, for the people of this country. And for the workers to sustain their jobs.
Okay, thank you so much. Thanks for speaking to us this evening and weighing in on the discussion there, the reaction of the Communication Workers Union, joined there by Nathan Bowers, talking about the plans to ensure that workers of the post office are paid 6 months worth of salaries, but he's saying that soon day zero will arrive.